And I will never forget, we're walking into that bubble, and it just felt like this is where I'm supposed to be. And I had no business playing that year because they brought in the last 2 Golden Boot winners, the last 2 MVPs, Steve Ralston, Aiden Brown, all these guys coming in. And yet 2002, I felt the weight of my world off my shoulders because Boston was going to be my home. I made a decision out of the love of the country that I had, but more so, it just felt weird that day, like I came home. I wanted to surprise people. I wanted to prove a point. I wanted to prove that the last 2.5 years in Germany, and I don't think people fully understand this, because right now when you're talking to me, the American player is not viewed the way the American player was when I was over in Germany. I led the reserve team in goals for, I think it was 16 months. Never got a sniff, but my partner who was East German up front, my right winger who is West German, they all got sniffs. So Germany made me hungry, but it also pissed me off. And so when I came back here, Fernando Clavijo, a former teammate of my father's, said, if you play well, I will play you. I don't care. Steve Nichols, his assistant. Now, Steve Nichols would probably tell you in front of the camera right now, I came in, I was loud, I didn't shut up. I was just all the things that I am to this day because I felt like the shackles were taken off me because the head coach and the general manager looked at me and said, if you play well, dude, we're going to play you. And because I just came from a place that it didn't matter if you played well, you weren't going to be played. So I didn't have expectations, but I was also extremely motivated, if that makes any sense, to prove a lot of people wrong.
We didn't know a whole lot, but I did know that, the Boston area is very similar to St. Louis. It's a sports town, and I did know a little bit about the coach as well. Fernando Clavijo was coaching there. I just know he was a very reputable person, and if Taylor was gonna get a chance, he'd give it to him.
I show up, the Revs draft me, I go up, Fernando hands me number 20, and I'm thinking, huh? He goes, yeah, this is what your dad wore. This is the number you want. I was like, well, is number 3 available? He goes, yeah, but your dad wore 20.
Well, it was exciting, because that was my favorite number. It wasn't my number all the way through, but when I played for Minnesota, that was my number. And that was our favorite place I played. So everything at home, jerseys and stuff, all had number 20s on them. So it was cool. It was cool. And I think Fernando Clavijo knew that, which was a nice gesture on his part.
Stevie, early on, when he took over as interim coach, you just wanted to play for him. We all did. We didn't play well early with Fernando that year in 2002. There was a lot of different personalities. They made a big-time trade. Stevie takes over, and Stevie Ralston and I kind of were like, all right, here we go. But the day Paul Mariner showed up, I knew something was going to be different. And I knew indirectly Stevie wanted Paul to push me. And it was perfect. At the perfect time for me.
He's had so many good things happen to him, that we just take him in stride and move on, and I think the best thing for me when I think back to his career, I was able to see his first goal, his 25th goal, his 50th goal, his 75th, and his 100th goal. I was just, by chance at the stadium for those games. And that to me was special for me, just to be able to share that with him. But, he won the bronze boot in the under 20s. He's everywhere he goes, that kind of follows him. So we took it just in stride because you can't take the highs and go crazy. He's got to kind of stay neutral so everybody can stay sane.
05, 06, 07. Listen, we lost 3 MLS Cups in a row in 3 different ways, which is remarkable to say and also sad in the same breath. But on the other hand, you're maximizing everything you can do with people that you love off the field, that you love working with. I still, to this day, looking in this camera, I wouldn't trade it. And I know that sounds crazy, right? Because I really would be tempted to trade it for 1 MLS Cup. But the truth is, I don't know if I would trade any of that.
Center now for Twellman. It's in the back of the net. Taylor Twellman certainly took it. This is giving up the body for this one.
The game that he had basically his final blow or concussion, he was playing against the Galaxy there, and I was there, and he got punched in the face, and you could tell something was wrong with him when he was playing. And then after the game, and the day after, he took us to the airport, and then he drove himself straight to the emergency room. So that's how bad he was feeling.
August 30th was the most absurd and obscure concussion that I had. It was the only one I wasn't knocked out on. And I immediately scored the goal, ran over, celebrated, kicked the wall, looked right at Shalry Joseph and said, I got a concussion. I don't know how to quantify how difficult it was every single day to see your team struggling, to see your coach not get rewarded for what he should be getting rewarded for. And the biggest reason why is you're not on the field. I did everything. I did acupuncture for 6 straight weeks, every day at 6 a.m. And then afterwards I'd go home, and some nights I'd sleep 14 hours, some nights I'd sleep 2 hours, and then I knew I was in trouble when I was looking at other ways to get rid of a headache. And that's when I knew. In that game in 2009, the last game I played in, I knew something was off. And I've told this story many times, but I took medicine and pharmaceutical pills that I've never taken before in my life, before a game. And I needed to tell someone, but I tried so desperately to know that this was it, and I needed to. And I'm just thankful Steve Nickel, Sunil Gulati, and the Revs were patient enough to allow me to go through that process. But those 6 games after I got punched, I would do anything to this day to not have played in those.
It's like an invisible injury. You see Taylor sitting here, he looks fine. No issues, nothing. But internally, there's stuff going on. He's just not feeling it. And he just said, Dad, I got to end it. And we were fine. Do I want to see him keep playing? Oh, yeah. As a dad, he's scoring goals. It's fun. We enjoy it. But that takes priority. And, it really did.
I grew up in a family where we had a lot of pro athletes, but all of them, after they were done, were giving back on their own level. And there's a phrase that I grew up, whether it was in grade school or high school, with my Jesuit education and whatever it may be a man for others. And that in and of itself came to me. My St. Louis upbringing came to me in Boston in my darkest time.
He's dealt with it in a good way. He's gone to a zillion different doctors to try to find the right solution. And the best part about it is that he's sharing this now. He's sharing all this information with his Think Taylor Foundation. And that you could be more proud of than scoring 100 goals. Seriously. His making parents aware, coaches aware, administrators aware of the difficulty that kids can go through is so important. Because you have to think about it. These kids, they want to play. So are they being honest with this? I feel fine now. So, the coaches and everybody have to take responsibility. And Taylor's really pushed that effort far. You can see it in the MLS. Players get an head injury. They have to be evaluated, and they go back on the field. Is that good enough? I don't know. You'd probably ask Taylor, and he'd say it's not good enough, because there's some people that get put back on the field just because they're saying they're okay. So that's a difficult thing. But what he's done with it has been tremendous.
I can't believe it happened, but I'm also extremely grateful it happened, because for my entire life, I thought everyone would remember me for, he scored this many goals, or he scored in this game, or whatever it is. For whatever reason, and I'm accepting it, it was for that moment. It was to bring attention to an injury that is happening in everyday life, but to use sports as the vehicle to get it into the vernacular that we need to be more educated, more aware of traumatic brain injury. And if the MVP of Major League Soccer in a medical capital of the United States, arguably in Boston, can't get the proper treatment, can't get the right answers in 2008, something's got to change. And the world and the Lord blessed me with a loud mouth and one that will say it until the cows come home. I was meant to talk about traumatic brain injuries in sports. And that, I didn't know that then. I want to make this abundantly clear. I didn't know that then. And I was pissed. And it was very dark for a long time. But now, sitting here in 2024, I couldn't be more grateful for that moment, because it actually now tells me exactly what I was meant to do in life.